have to go and leave everything you know to go and find a group of people who support what you want to do.
We're back to it. Yeah.
Some people call it intuition. And at that young age, I started to just get these visions of like, I think like I'm here to inspire people.
We're back to it, and this is how we do it. Come and sit front row, gonna make you lose it.
And you were one of the first women that has changed my life.
Oh my God, this is gonna make me cry.
You're changing hundreds of lives, thousands that you know of, but you just don't know the millions that you're actually touching. And it's just incredible. And I'm one of them. So thank you.
That makes me so happy. And I'm so glad to not be a secret anymore. I had never experienced feeling so shameful though about like failing. I don't look at rejection as a bad thing. I actually collect it because the more rejections I have, the more wins I have. Our journeys, like we're not meant for everybody and they're not meant for us.
Right.
If you want to do anything big in your life, you have to take risks. And risk means you're going to fail. There are moments in your life where if you can change the perspective, take away comparison, I think it just is going to propel you even more. If I could go back and do anything different in that moment, I would have.
She is a serial entrepreneur and powerhouse in the world of business and wellness with 3 7-figure businesses under her belt, including Glossy, a pioneering beauty supplement. She has redefined skincare as a holistic experience, a skin routine you can drink. She is a force to be reckoned with. From her beginnings as a fitness champion to her best-selling book, A Tribe Called Bliss, and the host of the top-ranked The Earn Your Happy podcast. She's dedicated to empowering women to achieve their dreams collectively. Please welcome Lori Harder.
Hi. I'm so excited to be here. This is my favorite.
Aww.
Talking to just other like-minded women and entrepreneurs. It's so fun.
I absolutely adore you. So I have to give you some background here.
Okay.
So I got into the personal development world probably like, oh my goodness, 6 years ago.
Okay.
Around there. And you were one of the first women, you and Rachel Hollis.
Really?
That has changed my life.
Oh my God, this is going to make me cry.
Yeah. It's so crazy how life happened.
Yeah.
And it's just manifested into you now being on my show. Like,
and
what?
I'm so freaking excited.
So I just had to just let you know that because you just never know, even though we never connected, I never DM'd you, I never left a comment, nothing. You were secretly my online mentor for so long. And you just never know who you're touching, who you're motivating, you're changing hundreds of lives, thousands that you know of, but you just don't know the millions that you're actually touching. And it's just incredible. And I'm one of them. So thank you.
That makes me so happy. And I'm so glad to not be a secret anymore.
No. Sometimes when you go through different transitions in your life, it's the season of isolation. And I went through that for several years. And
can't wait to hear about that.
Yeah, no, we definitely need to connect.
Yeah.
We're both very busy, but off camera, like you and I, when you get together, you're literally right down the street. I love that you live here now. So where'd you move from?
Well, originally I'm from Upper Michigan and we lived in the Midwest for a while. So I lived in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and then we've lived in Los Angeles though for about 9 years and then here for like 3, but off and on.
Okay.
And Arizona.
Okay, so you're just all over the
all
world.
over.
Yeah, just taking over the world. Yeah, no big deal. I love that. So I am familiar with your journey, but if you can, for the listeners and the viewers, to please share where it all began for you, a bit about your roots, and what inspired you to step into this world of entrepreneurship as you are taking over.
Oh man, the older I get, the longer the story gets. So I'm going to try to keep it brief. I'm originally from Upper Michigan, which most people don't even know that there's an upper part to Michigan, truly. So not like the Detroit area, like go way up, like more northern than most of Canada, truly. And so it is a really small town. I would say the closest town to it that it represents anything of a city is like 3 hours away, maybe 4 hours away. So it's a city, but it's an isolated area. And I grew up in a more restrictive religion. So take a small town and make it even smaller, because I wasn't allowed to associate with anyone outside of that religion. So I was also homeschooled through high school. So I tell people that because my perspective was just of that particular group of people. And as a teenager, I started to kind of like get these ideas and dreams in my head. And I remember just feeling like, I don't know why I'm here, but I think it's bigger. I don't even know what that means. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I, did not graduate high school. I didn't have a high school education. So I had these big dreams with like very different reality of I'm not really hanging out with anyone outside of my religion at all. And I didn't graduate. So for me, when I ended up choosing to leave that religion at 18, I went into a world with no one. Like, when you leave your friends, you typically leave your family. I was still talking to my family, but it's not really, it's frowned upon. So the reason that this story is so important for people to hear is truly from that point in my life, I had to figure out what it looked like to create a new network of people outside of how I lived and how I was raised. And I think that, everyone who is listening understands that sometimes in life, when you have a big goal that maybe you haven't seen it in your family as an example for you, whether you want to be an entrepreneur or whether you want to go be a celebrity or whether you want to get into, be an athlete or anything like that, that you haven't seen an example of in your family. You actually have to go and leave everything to go and find a group of people who support what you want to do. So this is what happened for me in my early 20s was I think that I want to do something in fitness. I think that I want to go and compete in fitness competitions. I think I want to be like a fitness mentor, a fitness celebrity. And I had to go and figure out how to piece that life and network together. And that was really the first taste of entrepreneurship was, what does this look like if I wanted to start being in the fitness world?
Got it. Yeah, that's right. You're 11 times champion, right?
11-time covers.
Cover 11 times. Oh yeah,
3-time
right.
champion.
Oh, 3-time champion. Got it. I was like, oh, how long did you do that for? Because I've been in 3 competitions.
You have? Okay.
Yeah, and
so you know the whole drill.
Oh gosh, I would never do that again.
Same.
Yeah, I mean, I loved my body. Don't get me wrong, but when your body didn't look like that, it just spiraled me into this crazy dark depression.
That's a whole podcast we could do.
Well, I would love to. Yeah. No. Anyways, so okay. Oh my gosh, I love these stories so much because you hear, because you're a little fish in a tiny, tiny little fish bowl. And then the fact that you knew that you were meant for greatness. I mean, was that instilled into you? Like, was there a moment where you were just like, there's so much more than I'm meant for? Or is it something that you're kind of just born with? Like, what happened that made you like, I need something bigger?
It's such a good question, because there might be some people who haven't necessarily felt that yet, or maybe they're like, I don't know what she's talking about. But I think the only way that I started to get that feeling, or like those, visions or images of like, oh, I think there's more in that feeling in your body, is when I started to really start getting into like working out, exercising, going in nature and going on walks. So, as a teenager, because I was starting to feel like, ooh, I don't know if this is what I want to do with my life, meaning like the religion and seeing how everything was unfolding for everybody. Like, this is going to be my future because I can see it in front of me.
Yeah.
I had really started going on like bike rides and long walks. And I was also wanting to lose weight because we struggled with weight our whole lives. And what happened through going on, just incorporating fitness and trying to eat better in my life was, as we start doing that, I believe that connecting with nature and exercising and movement is really how we connect to God, to our higher power, to this like universal, call it what you want. It's kind of a universal intelligence from God, whatever, that you're gonna start hearing these intuitive messages. Some people call it intuition. And at that young age, I started to just get these visions of like, I think like I'm here to inspire people. Now, mind you, I'm an overweight kid who has nothing inspirational yet, but I could just feel that. And it was like, I think I'm supposed to figure this out if I was to have to put a language to it, it was like, I think I'm supposed to figure this problem out.
Yeah.
I think I'm supposed to go and do something with my life so I can tell people how I did it. And the more that I would go on those walks and the more that I would connect with nature, it's like the more I could get in tune with that intuitive feeling in that voice. And I held on to that so closely. I just was like, okay, this is where I need to be, this feeling. So if you've ever gotten a feeling in your life, it's like, how do we get more of that? How do we connect more to that? And I really do believe it's through eating better, sleeping well, moving our bodies, hanging out with high vibe people. And I think that we get to hear that voice all the time if we do those things.
Absolutely. And it, like, you had that feeling of that you knew you were different. And I think a lot of people struggle because they don't know what that means, different in a good way or a bad way. But I believe we're all on this planet to somehow serve in some sort of way. So if you get that feeling that you are different, take that as a good thing. Like, there is something bigger and better for you out there. I love that so much.
And people are, if you feel different, there's a whole group of people who also feel the same way you do. And so if we were just born and put into the exact spots we were needed to be in, like, life would be really boring. We are meant to figure that maze out and figure that all out. Those are the things that, like, that's how we find our purpose in the world, is to go figure out the problem and then share how we did it with other people.
Yep, which is scary for a lot of people, but that's part of it. That's the power of vulnerability. That's the power of sharing your journey and your story. That's exactly why I have this show, Pain to Power.
I love that name too.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Right? I was shocked when I saw the name was not taken. There's others, like I think there's a Pain to Power podcast.
Yeah,
mine's just Pain to Power. But anyways, I was stoked when I saw that it was available. So anyways, you are a serial entrepreneur. You own several businesses, successful businesses. But it wasn't always like that. You had a lot of failed moments in your life. One specific big one, but I want you to share that journey and what happened there, because I think the majority of my listeners and watchers are like 70-80% women. They're all entrepreneurs. They own businesses or in real estate, all the things. It's scary. It's scary when you fail. But your story is so powerful because you've failed so much, but you kept going. And I would love for you to kind of break down that whole journey for them so they can understand exactly what you went through.
I think about this all the time because it's really like, if you are capable of holding the feeling of embarrassment and failure, like, you will win. And I think we're so afraid to feel those feelings, which also keeps us from our greatest successes all the time. There's a couple big failures, but one of them started out, my husband and I were probably married a few years at this point, and he was the main breadwinner in our family. At that time, I was kind of working random jobs because I was so ashamed that I didn't graduate high school. So I was like not even trying to get better jobs because I was afraid they were going to be like, you didn't graduate? Like, I didn't even tell my husband until we were like a year into marriage. Totally lied to him because I was so ashamed. I'm like, he's going to think like I'm just all the things, right? We build these horrible stories. So my husband in 2008 was in mortgage and finance. And we all know what happened then. There was a big recession, and we were living way beyond our means because he was doing really well and climbing up the ranks in what he was doing. And in 2008, we ended up losing our home. We lost our cars. He completely lost his identity. And at this point, I was making like $6 per 30-minute session at an LA Fitness. That's not going to pay the bills for us. And I couldn't dig us out of what we were in. We were about $300,000 in debt in the Midwest in 2008. Guys, that's like $3 million, according to right now, especially in the Midwest. So there was a moment there where, I just had this like overwhelming feeling come over me when he came home and kind of broke that news to me. Like, we've been living way beyond our means. we have to short sell our house. We are getting rid of all of our things and we're in debt. And I have to borrow money from my parents out of their retirement to just go and get a tiny apartment for us. And now I had been through bankruptcy with my parents when I was young, when I was about 13 years old. I watched them go through it. And when Chris told me that, instead of like being upset or having a crazy reaction, I literally, my whole body was like, I looked at him and I said, this will never happen to us again. Like ever. Like we will never, ever allow this to ever happen again. And at that point, the pain of failure and the pain of like everything that had just happened way overcame the pain of the fear of going and trying bigger things. So there was such a gift in that moment of my worst nightmare to that point in my life, or up until that point, was happening. And I think there's so much power. Talk about the name of your podcast, Pain to Power. Like there's so much power in the worst thing in your life actually happening, because it no longer has control over you. You're living it. You're like, okay, I'm in it. This is awful, but what am I going to do? And asking yourself questions like, why am I here? Why is this happening to me? Or this isn't fair. See, it's so unfair that I didn't get the education. I didn't have the parents who pushed me into college. I don't have this. I don't have that. I have anxiety. Like none of that is going to help you when you're in this situation. And that was the point where Chris and I decided like we can't ever ask ourselves those questions. They're off the table. Like we can only say, you know, how do we get out of this? Who do we know who's been through something like this who could maybe give us some advice? What books should we be reading? Who should we be hanging around? Where should we be at? What do we need to do? And all of these questions, like they open up a creative field for you that is, it completely, once you start asking those, it's like you start attracting all of the right things in your life rather than being in that really down negative place. Don't get me wrong. We had daily battles with what was actually happening in our reality. You want to go back to that place of like, this is awful. How are we going to get out of this? This is hard. Everyone's saying life is hard. The economy's bad. Homes are, you know, everything. Look at what's happening out in the world. And we're like, we can't be any part of that. So that was a huge, that was a beginning failure that really taught us how to set ourselves up for getting out of them. But then the second really large one, which by the way, there were like hundreds in between here.
I know. I'm like, I wonder which one she's going to pull out.
Oh my gosh. There are so many in between there, but I would say the one that really impacted me just emotionally, because it really hit me through people. The hard one was when I ended up later on in my entrepreneurial journey raising $2 million from 54 female investors for something that was called Light Pink. It was going to be a non-alcoholic rosé, in a can, and then a spritzer, a light rosé spritz in a can as well. And the reason I wanted to start this was I had done like the whole personal development thing. I was doing women's events. I had written the books, and it was all about, everything that I did was about connecting women and networking and connecting you to the people who were like-minded. Because of how I grew up in my story, I knew that the answers were all like in your network and who you were connecting with. And at the time I had moved to LA and I was going to all these different networking events with incredible women, but it wasn't like facilitated. We weren't really getting answers we needed. I was kind of leaving them feeling like buzzed from drinking too much and feeling awkward. And I wasn't like connecting really with anyone deeply. And I would leave feeling kind of empty. And so the book that I had written, the one you had mentioned, it was called A Tribe Called Bliss. And the book did well, but it didn't really hit the mainstream women that I wanted it to hit. It hit like the personal development realm of people who were already reading books, but I was like, I want to hit the mainstream women. Where are they connecting? And they were connecting over cocktails, like at these networking things. And they, we were drinking these things that tasted terrible because we wanted less calories and we wanted to feel better. And I was like, what if I made something that tasted really good, that had 3 questions on the back of the can? And I knew these questions worked from my 8 years of events that I had put on asking these questions with women. And so everyone thought it was a great idea. I got, all of these incredible angel investors who were either friends, some of them were mentors, some of them were celebrities, and got them all into this group. They had invested, loved the idea. Then the pandemic hits. And it was like, I lost my margins. Warehouses were shutting down. We had put so much money into it and it was just going nowhere.
Wait, but I remember when the pandemic hit, everyone was having Zoom parties and getting drunk.
Right.
So that wasn't...
on companies that were already up and running. So this was trying to get something running during that time. And it was like, there was something called the candemic. You couldn't get aluminum cans. Like it was one of the most intense experiences of my life, where it was wall after wall after wall after wall. And I was like, people don't know what I've gone through. I am going to get this thing. Like, I'm going to get it to the finish line. Except, I mean, it was like wall after wall after wall. I've never experienced anything like that for a solid 2 years of my life. And I had this point where I went to a super, she's actually pretty well known in the alcohol industry. She took a company to a really big exit. And I was like, can you look at my business? Like, is this a viable business anymore? And she's like, no. And here's what you would need to do. Like, you'd have to go raise either $10 million more dollars, hire experts, do all of these different things, get into, I wanted to be like a D2C brand, direct to consumer. I didn't necessarily want to be in retail right away. She's like, you'd have to hire these experts. You'd have to hire these sales teams. You have to do this. You have to do that. And I'm like, that's just not the business that I know my skill set could bring to a really successful place. Now, the whole mission of why I even wanted to do this was to get women involved in understanding how to invest, and also that we weren't just capped on our skill sets to our dreams. Meaning, I had gotten to a place where I knew I wanted to do something different, but I was like, I don't know if, I don't have the network. I don't know if I have the skill set to create a product. I don't understand that at all. And I realized that if I want to teach other women that we don't have a cap on our dreams, if I wanted to teach other women that we can literally do anything, that I have to figure out how to do something that's so far outside of my realm that I'm going to be able to teach them. It's kind of like what I've always done. And so I was like, oh my God, I have to be the person to do it. But rewinding back to that point of, I don't have a viable business anymore. Like, our margins are gone. This is not a smart move anymore. I thought, okay, we need to pivot into something that I know how to do. I know how to sell. We still bring women along on this vision of what this is. It's like, together we can do anything. And also, let's look at what we can do if we all collectively come together to share something and support something. And so we pivoted into a different business. But that in between of pivoting and realizing that you are failing and that you have lost money in this is like, I think for women too, like, holding that feeling of losing people's money. I know for men, it can be a different experience, not for all, but for many. It was the most intense experience of my life. Like, up in the middle of the night, feeling like a total failure, feeling like you have screwed up your whole career, like people will never invest in you again, like you did something wrong, I just remember holding all of those feelings from 2 to 4 a.m. like every night, tossing and turning, going, how am I going to make this thing a success? Am I going to have to go tell people I failed? And that was probably the hardest thing to do, is tell 54 people, like, hey, this is what's going down. Here's what we have to do. And yeah, you get some people who definitely voice their opinion, and that was challenging.
Yeah, I'm sure. Not only are you going through the challenges of your own failure, but it's 54 times more people and their lives. Yeah. Oh gosh, I can't even imagine. So how did you and how do you navigate through setbacks, moments like those of self-doubt when faced with failure or imposter syndrome or any sort of fear? How do you navigate through that?
I learned really quickly that you should not do it alone. You should not isolate. I'm telling you, if you isolate yourself, you will make up every awful story, about what people are thinking in your head. And you'll just live it, and you will be living in a personal hell, because you will be living it in that moment. Like, your own prison for sure.
That was me for years. That just hit me, like, resonates with me so much, because I just now started building my community of people. And I'm telling you, the way my life has been going, how it catapulted me into so many new opportunities, open doors. And you're absolutely right. What has changed is my faith in God, but also my community that I'm building, our tribe.
Yeah, totally.
It's incredible.
And God uses people. Like, you will get straight up messages through people that you're like, how did you know?
Yeah.
Like, they didn't know. He knew. Yeah. It's the most powerful thing, which is why literally everything we do roots back to community. That's where you will find your answers. And I think it's amazing you also have like a faith and a connection, because I really believe you have to have all those things. If I did not have faith in God, that I was like 100% completely surrendered in the middle of this, where I had a couple nights where I was like, I don't know how to do this anymore. Like I can't, when you're alone with your thoughts. It was during the pandemic. I started drinking way too much wine, which just spikes the anxiety and wakes you up in the middle of the night. I remember a couple moments where I was like, I don't know how to carry this. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. Was I going to do anything? No. But I remember thinking that, like, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to do this. I can't do it. And that couldn't be more opposite of who I am. And it was because of the isolation and the shame of it made me not share. Now, I normally share my problems. Like, I wrote a book about it, like how to do it, why to do it.
Yep.
It's like, I wrote a book because I need it and I needed to remember it. So in the middle of it, I had never experienced feeling so shameful though about like failing. Like you just are in your head going, could I have done something different? Oh my God, these, I feel like I was so foolish. Like, why did I do this? Like all of these thoughts. And so the shame just kept me quiet. And if I could go back and do anything different in that moment, I would have reached out to more people faster. Because in the entrepreneurial journey, or if you're taking if you want to do anything big in your life, you have to take risks. And risk means you're going to fail. And it means that you're going to bump into things that are hard. You're going to do things wrong. You're going to feel stupid. You're going to be embarrassed. You're going to do all those things. Everybody does it. Anyone who's ever done anything has done a lot of, maybe call it foolish or dumb or whatever it looks like, because you're learning and you're learning in front of people. And so I would go back and tell myself, like, go tell some of these women, like, but what had happened is I had gotten these women who I normally would tell, who I normally were kind of my safe space. They became investors. So then I felt like I cut myself off from my safe space. And so that was a big, I remember I went to a couple of friends. I'm like, okay, I need to tell you, like, just from not an investor standpoint, I'm like, I have to share where I'm at. The second I started sharing, we started getting solutions. I was like, why did I not tell you sooner? I remember one of my friends, I was like so ashamed, and she has a really big business. And I called her. I voice noted her. I'm like, hey, SOS, you got to call me. I feel sick to my stomach. I have to tell you something. I need help. Like, I need some help. And the second I told her what was going on, she said to me, she's like, this happens to everyone. This happened to me. This is so normal. Oh my gosh, here's what you do. Here's what you're going to say. Here's how we're going to position it. I'm like, why didn't I call you 6 months ago? This could have saved me so much time, so much fear, so much sadness, so much shame. And so if anybody's listening to this, it's like we have to plug into these different groups and just put it all out there, because the second you share a shame, it's like nothing, it releases everything in your body and it creates solutions for you.
That's incredibly important, you guys. It's okay to ask for help.
You have to.
It is okay. And that's, again, that was my struggle for my whole adult life. I was so afraid to ask for help. And I think a lot of it comes from trying to prove others that I got this. And we'll talk another time about my story as to why I ended up that way. But I think a lot of people will resonate with this because, number one, we want to seem like it's all we're all put together. We got it all figured out. We don't need your help. And, or people are afraid that they're going to be judged. Well, why did you let that happen? Why, so what advice would you give to people like that are struggling to reach out for help, ask for help, and start building a community and getting out of that isolation phase?
I mean, it is not maybe the answer, it's the answer. So I would say it starts really small. It started small for me when I was first building different communities and connections with people. So just start searching for anything in your area. Maybe you're looking for more like-minded business people. Maybe it's realtors. Maybe it's, connecting with moms. Maybe it's connecting with people through a workout. Maybe it's an entrepreneurial. Church is huge.
Yeah.
And when you're there, if you kind of resonate with someone, just do an ask, like, hey, would you ever be open to a quick coffee? Like, let them off the hook if possible. Nobody ever wants to feel pigeonholed or cornered, and just be like, hey, you know, I think you're amazing. I would love to take you to a quick coffee, like 30 to 60 minutes, and just see if there's anything I can help you with. I want to share a bit about myself and where I'm at. If you're interested, let me know. I can come to you, or maybe we could, you know, for me, it's always like I try to stack things that are already going on in my life. So eating, I already eat. So can I share a meal with someone? Working out, or whenever someone wants to talk about a business idea, I'm like, great, that's typically fun for me. So I love that as well. So I think you have to, you know, keep trying to reach out, I would say every day. And just to share, like, honestly, when I moved to LA, I did not have girlfriends there yet. And so I did a workout every Monday. I'd go to Orange Theory. It was an Orange Theory on San Vicente, I remember. And I would say, okay, I'm going to invite someone to this workout because I have to work out anyway. And let's say I was inviting you, I'd be like, hey, do you want to, you know, go for this workout? And then afterward, we'll catch a 20-minute coffee. Like, you know, that's it. Just 20 minutes. We can chat. We can see like if I can help you or whatever, where you're at in life. And then we'll go from there. And I got mostly no's, but I got a lot of yeses. And I did this every single Monday for like a year. Like I just went with different people. Sometimes I'd go with the same person, or I tried to invite people. Like I'd say every other Monday I probably had somebody come with me. And tons of rejections.
Which
like,
people are also afraid of rejection.
Totally.
So that's another reason why they don't feel comfortable enough to reach out and do all of that.
Yeah.
So
you have to know that rejection is a part of it. Like even
in anything,
in literally everything.
Yeah.
You know, we get to, you have a podcast. I have a podcast. I have 1,100 episodes out where when I ask people like how much rejection is a part of it, it's like more than 50%. It's 90%. And so for me, I don't look at rejection as a bad thing. I actually collect it, because the more rejections I have, the more wins I have. So if you look at life as a numbers game, what really helped me was actually in network marketing. It's truly like a numbers game. Like for every 10 conversations you have, you might get one phone call. And that's if you learn how to be a really good closer. So I was like, okay, how many conversations do I need to have with people in order to get these numbers that I want? And so I stopped looking at it as so personal and started looking at it as like data and statistics. So if you can take out the fact of like, we just take everything so personal, and we have to remember that our journeys, like we're not meant for everybody and they're not meant for us.
Right.
And that's the fun puzzle of life. Like in all honesty, would we be having any fun if we didn't like get rejected and have to earn something? You wouldn't, because it would just be like brushing your teeth.
Right.
It wouldn't be exciting.
Yep, exactly. Same thing with I'm in real estate. It's 90% rejection.
Yeah.
I've
totally.
lost so much more business than I've gained.
But you're willing to do that, and you understand it, and you're not taking it personal. You're not like, oh my God, that, you know, it must have been something I said why they didn't want this house. No, it's just like, you have to know what game you're in, and then you have to fall in love with it.
Right. But I also believe, now correct me if you disagree, these meetings and connections should be some sort of exchange, because the one thing I really just do not like is when people always reach out and they say, hey, can we meet for a coffee? I want to pick your brain.
Yes.
And it's like, like, can you understand what I'm saying, right? Can you explain that, please? Like I feel like you would explain that way better than I do, but
oh my gosh,
it needs to be some sort of exchange.
So Chris and I, it's so funny because this morning we just did a webinar on how to network with high level people. So we have a whole framework because of this, because people get really confused on why they're being rejected. So there are, you know, if anybody's listening, they're like, oh, I've done that. Trust me, I've done it too. But there are rules of engagement, truly, especially with high level people, or the people that you want to be networking with. And it's a value exchange that creates reciprocity. So in the beginning, when you are wanting to, if I did want to pick your brain, number one, don't say that.
Yeah.
But what I would do is I would start researching you and saying like, what are her goals? Like what does she want in her life? Like, or I would reach out and be like, hey, what are you working on? What are you most excited about? And let's say it's your podcast, because you're like, I want to get this podcast out there. I would try to find every way to add value of, oh my gosh, do I know any epic guests that maybe I could connect her with? I'd be like, maybe I just met this person, they have this or that. Could let me know if you want the connection and I could connect you. Or I'd constantly share your podcast. I'd go give it a rating. I'd go give it a review. I would stay on your radar for the next year to 3 years. It's a long game. You can't just, I know when somebody comes across my Instagram page and sees that I have a podcast and is like, I'd love to be on your show, and they have a private account. I'm like, how would you share the show? Like, how would you help me? Get the show out into the world, because that is the goal for the show, is to have people on who will help get the show out in the world, whether that is, someone who has an audience or whatever that looks like. And so it's the long game with relationships of how are you adding value to that person? Have you shown up on their radar? By the time you ask a question, they should be familiar with you for sharing your stuff or helping you.
So good. Thank you. That's so incredibly important. And I haven't talked about that on the show yet. So thank you for bringing that up and explaining that. What would be your advice for someone that is wanting to start a new business? It's obviously new waters. What would your advice be to get started?
Depending on where you're at monetarily. Like for us, Chris and I, let's just say this is when we were in the depths of debt. And so what we did is our mentors were in our ears. It was podcasting. It was books. It was like asking people maybe that we knew that we had in our lives and our network to, if we had some questions. And by the way, like, it wasn't just, hey, can I go pick your brain for this long? It was, we got like specific singular questions and would be very brief with them. So it was like, hey, here's where we're at. What would you do in this scenario, this or this? Like it was questions that it would be easy for people to answer and that we could potentially go and integrate before we asked another question. It wasn't like we were just getting all of this information. I know you've had these people in your inbox. Where do I start? What do I do? Those are big questions. It's kind of like you need a singular question that you could get an answer to and go and integrate. So in the beginning, it might be that you are just able to do like podcasts, people in your field, and books. The next step was we did whatever it took to get a little bit of money to go into like either a mastermind or a course. And I remember our next step was we got Brendan Burchard's, I can't remember what it's called. It was one of his first books, but it was about the Millionaire Messenger. We got the Millionaire Messenger, and it taught you step by step how to take a business online. And so I was doing fitness, like I had started doing fitness in person. I was a personal trainer. And that was the first time we started taking my personal training online. And what I had done is also gone into a personal training program, and I had done that for a while so I could understand how it works. Like, don't start a program you've never been a part of. I wouldn't recommend it. Like, go and get some experience. And then we had launched an online program, and that was kind of my first endeavor outside of starting a tiny gym, you guys, like a one-on-one training studio, into starting a business. And it was all because it was like online things and courses and learning online.
When was this?
This was 2011, 2012.
Is that when it started getting, because I remember there was a huge fitness trainers started taking their business online, but it was only a select few. It was like a handful, and they became multi-millionaires literally overnight. It blew up. Was it during that time?
I think it was we were one of the earliest adopters.
Okay.
So it might have been even right before that.
Yeah.
Because we didn't really even have necessarily people to look to. We looked at Tone It Up, who she's one of my friends, but we had even like been in the same competition world together. We had competed together, Katrina Scott. So it was like we didn't have anyone to look to. We were taking the model of like taking a business online, not like training. But yeah, I think it was a couple of years after that everybody started getting on fitness stuff.
That's crazy. And then they became multimillionaires. And then it got so saturated.
Yes.
And then just now people that I know that are still trying to run that same model, it's just no longer how it used to be, or pay how it used to be.
Yeah, it's very different now.
It's
You have
very
to do a lot
different
of
now.
different things now.
Yeah. So is there anything you would have done differently, or anything you would tell you wish you knew sooner or earlier?
There's quite a few things. I at that time I've always been very interested in a lot of stuff, and I think I could have made that fitness membership even bigger. It was a 7-figure business in the first year, but I think I could have made it even bigger by focusing on it more. Meaning I was just doing so many other things at the time that I was interested in. I was like, let me do a cookbook, let me do a YouTube show, I wish I would have stayed more in that zone and gone deeper with it. Also, I wouldn't have compared myself to a couple other people that I was comparing myself to, because I didn't realize how good I was doing. And so everything that I put out wasn't enough, because my friend that I had at the time was like doubling everything that I was doing. And so I felt like we were failing, even though we were crushing it. And so I wish I would go back and go, you're doing awesome. Focus here, be grateful. I'd go back and I'd be more grateful, because I think that energy would have done even better. Don't get me wrong. I think we did great.
Right.
But I'm talking about, there are moments in your life where if you can change the perspective, take away comparison, I think it just is going to propel you even more.
100%. Do not compare. I just got asked the other day, how do you, go up against like competition and all the things. And I'm like, I literally answered with what competition, and the audience started laughing, but I didn't mean it in the sense of like, oh, what competition?
Right.
It was more of like, I don't look at other people. I'm in a competition with myself every day, but I mean, do what you got to do. I mute people on my social media. I don't look at what other people are doing, because when I did do that, I was self-sabotaging myself. I didn't want to say self-sabotaging myself. Because I was comparing. And I'm like, I'm not as far as I should be. I almost didn't even get this studio for this podcast, because I'm like, how many podcasts people are doing right now? Like, what difference is this really going to make? But instead I was like, you know what? It's me. I'm in competition with myself. And comparison is the thief of happiness. You just can't do that.
No.
So you got to stay tunnel vision, super focused on what you're doing, because everyone's journey is different. Every person is different. There is no comparison. You can't.
No, and you have to think of yourself as like, you have to really think of how you consume things. Like humans are consumers, and we consume different things for different periods in our life. Like I'm sure I'm sure I even came in your life at a time where you needed me, and then I'm sure you toggled back and forth and found other people for different points and different things that you needed. And so, this is so good for us to know, even as business people, to know like your customers will come and go. It's nothing with you. It's where they're on. And sometimes it is something with you, but but it's like having a mindset of abundance around everything, and knowing that you're going to be for certain people at certain points in their journey, even if there's someone doing it doing something way better than you,
right?
That you think it's like, okay, there's this celebrity doing it, and it's like, yeah, but they're so far down the road that like the person who wants to start doing this and has never done it, they can't relate to that person.
Right.
So actually, everyone who wants to begin right now has such an advantage. Want everyone to literally take a minute and know that some of you have a way bigger advantage than you and I right now, because it's like, they want to understand and remember what it's like to be in those in the first year or in the second year of starting out. And I'm a little too far from it now. Like I can tell you what I felt like, but I can't maybe access the feeling as well as the person who is in it. And they can speak to like that struggle and that worry about, their family judging them, or like that's really far away from me now, because I've dealt with a lot of those things. So people need those beginning people to get started, because a lot of times that's who they're drawn to on the journey.
I have never heard that before. That is such an incredible point. Wow. That is so true. You guys, save this episode, listen to it every day if you have to, but that's absolutely incredible. Thank you so much, Lori. Few more questions, and then I do have to unfortunately wrap it up. Is there any new projects you have coming up that you like to share?
Oh, I am in full glossy mode, which is the skin routine you can drink. I am loving it because it's also about creating community and creating ambassadors and just being able to give like everyday routines a glow up, which is really exciting. I'm truly obsessed with it. It's like, it's my favorite thing that I have ever done and that I'm doing.
You should have brought some products. I could have set it up right here or whatever and try it myself.
Well, I'll be sending you one. Yeah.
So can you kind of break down a little bit more about what Glossy is?
So Glossy is a daily beauty supplement, and it's in a powdered stick that you put into your water. It's for skin and gut. So it is, we have an incredible probiotic in there that has 30 clinical studies. So I know a lot of people take probiotics, but it's really like the main thing is we want to make sure that it's actually working. Okay. And so we actually took a big risk with this product because it was, well, with the probiotic, because it was pricey to create. And even with the price point of what we do, like we really wanted a product that we knew would get results because we know like we're in a very social world. Like if we could get some good before and afters and really get testimonies of people being like, this made me feel lighter. It makes me feel amazing. It's make my skin look awesome.
Your skin is fantastic, by the way. Oh my goodness.
It's my two glossies. So I was like, if we're going to do this, we're going to create a product that works. We call it sticky products. Like it's got to be a part of your daily routine. It's got to work. So we also have hyaluronic acid in there. We have magnesium, we have zinc, we have vitamin C, we have prickly pear. We have a lot of things that it was all the things that for me, I didn't want to be taking so many pills. I'm from the wellness world. I was like, I don't want to take another pill. I want something that not only makes me drink water, but keeps me in like, gets me excited for that routine of just like taking a moment for myself, drinking water, something that actually tastes good, because everything tastes like fake or too salty or chemical. Yeah. And for me, a stick felt like the easiest transportation system for something for wellness. I was like, I can do this. This is something I can do each day. If I struggle with my wellness routine and I'm in wellness, then I know other people are. So I got really excited about like, okay, it's going to make you drink more water. It's going to make you feel amazing. It's going to be that moment where you can, like, no pun intended, but like pour into yourself. And I think that's what it's doing for people. We're finding is they're like, it's a reset for me. Like I have a lot of women who are like in the middle of the day, if I'm feeling like low energy or just like I forget about myself, it's like, so go drink your water. Go give yourself some Glossy. Give yourself a second.
But it doesn't have any caffeine?
No, it doesn't have caffeine in it. But
it's
got a bunch of great stuff that makes you feel really good. So,
oh my goodness. I definitely have to try that.
Oh, you're going to. I'm like, so we're going to send you. We're sending you some.
I'm so excited. Okay, last couple of questions to wrap it up. In your definition, what does pain to power mean to you?
Oh, see, I have a phoenix on my arm, so pain to power.
That's what it is. I have one right here.
You have one too? I love that. Okay, so we know there's stories there for sure. Pain to power to me now means that I can honestly look back at every painful moment in my life and know that those were the moments that were transforming me into the woman that I came here to be. And now when something painful happens, I understand that it's not just happening because, like, there are deep, beautiful messages in there that are going to allow me to help other people later, and also that are going to offer me gifts, just not in the moment. And so I tend to lean into it a little bit more. Like even we've lost some incredible people in our life, and I thought that was the worst moment of my life. And I can honestly say that they have proven to give us messages like throughout them being gone. Like you just learn so much from the worst things that can happen. It's hard to know that in the moment, but pain to power just means that, like, truly, share one quote that changed my life. It's by Richard Rohr.
Yes, please.
And it's if you don't learn how to transform your pain, you'll transfer it. And so if you don't learn how to transform your pain, you'll transfer it. But if you learn how to transform it, you're going to transform other people. with that message.
Oh, I love that. Okay, I'm gonna write that down, put it on my wall.
Changed my life.
Beautiful. I've never heard that one before. Wow.
I know, and I was
it
in those
has to go
places.
somewhere.
Has to go somewhere, and if you don't transform it, you're gonna put it on your favorite people. You're gonna push away your husband. You're gonna push away your friends. You're gonna push away.
Come out in other ways, and most that usually comes out obviously very negative.
Yes, real bad. Did that.
Oh, that is beautiful. I love that. Where can everyone best connect with you?
I feel like I'm just always on social or the podcast. So
Yeah.
Earn Your Happy, or we're on Instagram a lot. So Lori Harder or Get Glossy.
That's right. And of course, you guys, I'm going to put everything, all the links in the description. So it will not be hard to find her, but you can also just like Google her, 'cause she's absolutely amazing. Something just popped in my mind right now. 1,100 episodes. You've been doing it for what, 8 years?
3 a week.
Three a week? Holy cow.
I talk a lot.
I love it.
I'm sick of myself. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
Oh, thanks. I'm like so happy you're doing a podcast because it's life changing.
Yeah.
It up levels you in every possible way. You'll be ready for anything in life because it's such a practice.
And it's pushing me to connect more.
Oh, that's why I did it, because I was such an introvert. I was like, people come to me, people.
Yep, exactly. And it's definitely helping. And also, of course, it's just like you said, when you first sat down, connecting with like-minded people, it's just so incredibly important for your growth. And I just also, because I'm very stubborn. So God was like, do it for so long. And I'm like, no, we're not going to do visuals. But here I am.
Yeah, totally. Mine started like Zoom, and now I'm doing in person because I'm like, oh, fine.
Do you have a studio?
I don't have a studio. No, I just kind of go all over.
So it's like a mobile thing?
Yeah, we like we'll rent like Airbnbs and stuff and set up for the day and invite people in. So
3 a week? I'm struggling with once a
Look,
week.
not 3 interviews. Not 3 interviews. 1 interview a week,
okay.
2 other episodes. So
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that would
All right.
kill me.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, dang, you must have like a big group team to be able to do that. Amazing. Well, thank you again so much, Lori, for being
so fun.
on today. It was so much fun. You guys, if you loved this episode, if it helped you, or if you know it's going to help someone else, please like, share, subscribe, all the things, and I will see you in the next one.